All right.
How exciting is it for you to sit down and watch your match on TV, and it's a nationally syndicated program, and hear really your wrestling idol, Terry Funk? You could hear the love and affection of what you're doing coming through. Did you just think in that moment, I've made it?
I felt like I was on my way.
Yeah.
I really was. So probably going to get into the fact that one day later, I'm in the emergency room of a hospital, right? Are we going to cover that? Yeah. I mean, I definitely felt like that match with Pillman and the idea that Corny and Sullivan had come up together where they were given free reign over the losers of the match. Jim Herd didn't think there was anything to be said for someone losing a match.
An enhancement talent.
Yeah, enhancement talent. And yet they came up with this really brilliant way of pushing enhancement talent and getting over while not going over that I can't believe hasn't been duplicated. It's been 34 years, 33 plus years. It's like, that's a great way to get somebody over. And if somebody out there goes, didn't Foley do that in '89? He's like, so what?
Yeah.
So what? It was a fun way. It got to be something that the audience looked forward to. And even last night when I was watching, now we're taping this about 8 days after the 30th anniversary of Raw, we saw Mike Rotunda. And I was like, kids, I'm so old that I worked a program with Mike, because he kind of was he was kind of in nowhere land after the Varsity Club broke up. He was Captain Mike Rotundo, but now there was no Steiner had gone off as a singles.
Trying to find something for him.
Yeah, Dr. Death Steve Williams was working back in Japan exclusively at that time, and he has a match that doesn't work out. He's asked if he would team up with Cactus Jack. He says, "Yeah, I'll take." And so now I'm in a position where I'm not just beating up on Nasty Ned or beating up on Rick Fargo, but I'm beating up on Mike Rotundo.
A television wrestler.
Right? And so that results in our first singles match. And and this is where I put over Michael Hayes. I always thought, obviously, Hayes has been in WWE forever because he's got a great creative mind. But even when I started beating up on Rotundo, Michael Hayes is covering for me, going, he probably just wants to go over reports, look at documents. Well, I'm throwing him outside the ring. And I get the chance now to have a TV match with a pushed TV wrestler. And I have my first real program. We're opening the shows, but we're having good 10-minute matches across the country. And this invites, as we talked about a few weeks ago, this gives way to Abdullah coming in, Sullivan. I mean, the Buzz Sawyer thing was short-lived because he broke his wrist in the most graphic way possible on live TV. But I think after that set of tapings with Nasty Ned and Brian Pillman, it really opens people's eyes to the possibilities.
So let's talk a little bit about, you broke down there the enhancement talent piece, and I feel like the phrase enhancement talent was probably invented after 1989.
They called them job guys.
Right.
But even then, I remember Ric Flair as the booker he would never use that term. He would call them the guys who do the favors. Like, he had a few different ways, but it was clear.
Some guys would say carpenters, and there's lots of other phrases.
Because these are guys who are there specifically to make you look good.
Yes.
And I tell you, job guys a little...
you don't want to be rude.
Yeah, you don't want to be rude. I mean, they're there to do a job, and, and we've all had fun with the plays on words,
When do you remember that narrative changing where it became almost taboo to say jobber or job guys?
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
90, 91 is when I and then you could take a lot more pride in being that guy.
Yes.
Because, I mean, going back to 90, when people would say, Cactus Jack's my favorite jobber, that was something I took offense to. And now you can tell I'm really proud of the jobs I did and the people I put over. But at that time, to be called a jobber was derogatory.
Yeah.
So I think, underneath talent, even that is not as good as...
It feels like a qualifier that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like... she's very attractive for her age.
Yeah.
It's an unnecessary qualifier.
Right.
Where she's an attractive woman is sufficient.